to Freckles and Blondie, everyone. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Randy.
And today we are discussing Hearts and Minds, episode 13 of Lost. It aired January 12th, 2005, and it was directed by Rod Holcomb. It was co-written by Carlton Cuse, and here's our favorite writer again, Javier Grillo-Marxuach.
Nice job.
Say it with confidence.
Yeah.
Even if it's wrong. But this is kind of exciting because Carlton Cuse is a huge major player for Lost, and this is his first episode with a writing credit on it.
Yeah, I always just assumed he was there from the very, very beginning.
Yeah. So that podcast you recommended like a few episodes ago, the Nerdist podcast with the Damon Lindelof interview, he talked about how he like pulled Carlton Cuse in because he was panicking when J.J. Abrams left and he realized that he had this gargantuan show like all to himself.
That's right.
And Carlton Cuse like came to his rescue. And I was looking ahead to see how many he'd written, and I didn't even count them. There were so many. He writes a ton of episodes for the future, like all the way to the end of the series.
Yeah, and he's also just like one of the main showrunners.
Right.
As well. So yeah, he's a big deal.
Of all the episodes for him to like come out on.
Yeah.
I think this is a funny choice.
I agree. This episode's strange.
It is. It's bold, and maybe that's exactly what he brought to it. I don't know. It definitely has controversial elements for sure.
Yeah, I suppose. I feel like when I was watching this episode, to be perfectly honest, I don't really care about Boone or Shannon a great deal.
Yeah.
So everything else that's going on, stuff with Jack and Kate, the stuff with Hurley and Jen and Sun and Kate, I find all that very interesting. The stuff with Boone and Locke and Shannon, I'm just like, it happens. Let's move on. I don't know why.
I think I like it in this episode.
Okay.
But, like normally, I think I'm with you. Boone and Shannon have never really been favorite characters of mine. Especially not Boone. Boone is probably one of my least favorite characters, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I don't even care enough about him for him to be a least favorite character of mine. He's just kind of there. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't, like, hate him. You're right. He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
I don't miss him when he's not around.
Right.
But I do like this story. I like seeing their relationship off of the island.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of getting some insight into this weirdness.
Yeah, they're both pretty emotionally damaged as people.
They are. And I mean, I feel like I bring too much knowledge into it because like later on we're going to get some flashbacks like from Shannon's perspective where it kind of puts this all into different perspective. But
right.
Yeah, it's just, I see what you mean. It's a little hard to care about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I enjoy it more moment to moment, but kind of a forgettable episode overall.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'll just say this right now. I had the hardest time coming up with the theme for this episode. So don't expect great things.
I had a hard time too, so
really?
Don't worry.
Okay. Okay, good.
This theme idea was a little ambitious.
Yeah.
I think it's good though. I think it forces us to think about like the episode as a whole and
right.
Try to like pull as whatever deep things are occurring out if we can.
Right.
Even if we fail.
Yeah. No, I like it. It was just particularly difficult this week.
Yeah. This is Boone's only episode.
Oh.
Which I did not know. And I mean, it's a little tricky because obviously he and Shannon kind of cross over in their episodes. So like this is a Boone episode, but Shannon is in his flashbacks, of course. But yeah, this is the only one that we will get of Boone, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I always think of this episode as the Boone and Shannon episode, but you're right. I mean, it is from Boone's point of view. So
yeah, it's kind of like Jin and Sun, and
right
in House of the Rising Sun, that was Sun's story, not Jin's.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
We should get into it and see what happens.
Yes, let's do it.
Previously on Lost, Claire was taken by Ethan and Locke and Boone bonded on their search for her. Locke and Boone have found some sort of unidentified thing, and Boone has been lying to Shannon about what he and Locke are doing in the jungle all day, every day. We open on Boone's eye, and this is bugging me, Randy. I don't understand why we open on some people's eyes and we don't with other people.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
I just want it to be consistent. Like, some people's episodes we don't, and then others we do, and I don't see any pattern in who these people are.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm almost kind of glad they didn't do it for every episode, because I feel like that might have gotten, I don't know, a little bit strange around like season 4 or something.
I think I would have liked it for each person's first episode.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
But yeah, if we had done it every episode, that would have been way too much.
It just seems like one of those things that whenever they open with the eye, it always reminds me of the very first episode.
Yes, me too. Or if we had made this a Jack thing to kind of single him out as the main protagonist, that would have made more sense to me. But yeah, we keep doing it, and then we'll skip a few people, and it's just bugging me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tiffany. I don't have a good answer for you. I don't know why.
No, there is no good answer. They just let me down. They knew that this was going to bother me.
Yeah, did it just to annoy you.
Yeah. Boone is creepily watching Shannon, who is talking with Saeed. Saeed has brought Shannon a gift for helping him with the translations. It's a pair of women's shoes that he found in the wreckage, and surprisingly, Saeed has no use for them. Shannon looks happy, saying that they're her size, and the two continue to make conversation as Hurley interrupts Boone's gazing, asking why he and Locke never bring back boar if they're gone all day hunting. Boone says they're just not finding it, and Hurley seems skeptical, telling Boone this isn't a game. Boone, however, returns his attention to Shannon, who is now holding Saeed's hand.
Again, the whole Saeed and Shannon thing, I don't get it.
I was wondering how you'd feel after this episode, if maybe it made some more sense, but I guess not.
No, again, I don't hate it. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Every time they're on screen, I'm like, but why? I don't know.
Which part are you wondering why about? Are you wondering, why would Saeed care about her, or why would she care about him?
Yeah, it's more about what is Saeed getting out of this. And I almost hate to say that because Shannon's annoying and self-centered, but she's not a terrible person. If she wants to date Saeed and he wants to do it, they deserve that happiness, whatever. But I just don't understand. Again, I think I said this last week. If they weren't on the island, I would just always picture them, if they were on the island and they were going out to dinner together, what would they talk about? I feel like there would just be blank silence because they have nothing in common. And opposites do attract, but for them, I don't understand.
If they went out to dinner, I think Shannon would do 80% of the talking and Saeed would listen.
Yeah, I feel like that would be Saeed's worst nightmare. Listening to Shannon talk about clothes or whatever. I don't know.
But he seems interested. There's not a lot of textual evidence for what it is about her that he likes.
Right.
But I feel like in contrast to him, she is kind of refreshing in her lightness.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like he is always concerning himself with such serious things, and she is not. And she is telling him about her time in Paris with this guy and the songs she heard in a movie. She just is talking about things that would never be in Saeed's world, and I think that's kind of appealing to some people.
That's a really good point. If you look at it that way, that makes more sense. I guess I'm always thinking about the earlier scenes with Shannon where she's saying, I'm not going to eat chocolate on the island, or she's tanning, or she's, putting on jewelry, that side of her. And I'm just like, would Saeed really enjoy that? But she does have other sides to her, I suppose.
Yes. I think that this episode hints a lot that Shannon is smart. And I think Saeed seeing something in her kind of indicates that as well. Maybe.
You think this episode indicates that she's smart? Interesting.
I think there are a few moments, like Boone explicitly says it to Locke at one point, that she is very smart. And her manipulation of Boone throughout the whole story may be bad, but it's clever.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I also feel like I would believe them more if Shannon or, Maggie Grace, who plays her, didn't look like an actual supermodel. So I'm just like, okay, I know why you're into this, Saeed. I don't know.
That's quite possible. I mean, Saeed's trying to enjoy his time on the island, I guess.
But, she's perfect. Like, everything about her is, like, ideal, So, I don't know.
I mean, so is Kate. So are most of the women on this island, honestly.
Very true, but I feel like she's, maybe because she, like, is always thinking about it, with tanning, and she seems to be more focused on it.
Sure.
Like, I feel like Kate, that priority is, like, very far down her list.
Yeah.
Shannon, maybe not so much.
Definitely.
I don't know.
I definitely agree. I like this scene with the two of them, though. I like their kind of playful banter and talking about the shoes. It's just kind of cute.
Yeah, it's nice.
And as always, when they have a nice scene, Boone is creepy in the distance.
So much creepy staring from him.
Very much. He has a patented creepy stare. He must have hung out with Ethan.
Yeah.
In a flashback, Boone is at a country club finishing up a game of tennis with a beautiful girl, and the two walk by the pool as Boone's phone rings. It's Shannon, who sounds distressed, saying she needs help. She screams at someone to get away from her, and Boone says he'll come get her. She tells him she's in Sydney, Australia. Back on the island, Boone confronts Saeed, telling him to stay away from Shannon. Saeed responds in a strong display of badassery. For a moment, you seem to be giving me an order, but Boone says it's a suggestion. When Saeed asks what if he doesn't, Locke interrupts, wanting Boone to join him in the jungle. Boone, you are so out of your depths here, son.
Yeah, what are you doing right now?
This is like one of the few people on this island you probably don't want to mess with.
Yeah, it's actually laughable when you try and intimidate Saeed. It's hilarious.
Like, everyone knows by now that he tortured Sawyer, right?
Right!
This should be common knowledge.
Yeah! What? That just shows how obsessed he is with Shin, and that he would even go over to Saeed and make that suggestion. Yeah,
he's desperate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not 100% sure what the root of that is. If it's just pure jealousy, is it protectiveness? I don't know. There's a lot of ways to read it, and I think it just gets more complicated as the episode goes on.
Yeah. I don't know.
I can't really decide either. Walking through the jungle, Locke tells Boone not to make an enemy of Saeed. Boone tells him he's hitting on Shannon, but Locke says he's very competent and we're going to need him on our side. Boone tells Locke that people on the island are talking, wondering where the boar is and what they're doing. Locke tells Boone that what they're doing is far more important than finding boar. He looks at the metal door in the ground and says, "This is our priority," as we cut to the title. So I think it's interesting how Locke describes Saeed as competent and that he's going to need him on his side.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like Locke is like planning something in the future. He just anticipates that he's going to need Saeed's help with something.
Yeah, maybe. It kind of made me think that he already knows that anything to do with this hatch is going to be controversial. So, like,
he's going to need support from anyone he can get it from.
Right. He's already thinking about what side everyone will be on and how to win whatever, issue might be coming.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Or maybe he's thinking that there's like some sort of technology in the hatch and only Saeed would be able to fix it.
Yeah, which is so interesting because if it was me and I found a metal box like that in the jungle, I would just write it off as being something useless, like immediately.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Because they're on a desert island. I mean, I guess strange things have been happening. But if I found that, I would be like, whatever is in there is not going to be of any significant... Like, there's a very small chance whatever's in there is going to be of any use to us here.
See, I would think at the very least, getting this open provides us with some sort of shelter. I would be completely fascinated with it because this is a desert island. How did this get here? Maybe it's not a desert island, you know? Like, I just feel like it opens up so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it being this man-made thing that was, you know, like it's not like somebody just forgot it and like left it here. It's not an item like that. It's something that's built into the ground. Like someone took a lot of time to make it. So
that's a good point. I think what I was trying to say is it's just scary.
Yeah.
So if I was walking along on a hike in the jungle and I came across that and it obviously couldn't be opened automatically, I'd just be like, nope, bye. Don't need whatever is in there. There's a much greater chance that it could be something terrible than something good. And I would just keep on walking.
That is so funny. I think it would just drive me crazy. I would just need to know what was in it.
Like Locke, you just have to get in there. That's so funny.
I would be like Locke. I would sit there and stare at it and be like, I must get in. How do I do this?
That's great.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to go to every measure that Locke does, but
yeah.
He's got priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And Shannon and Saeed's island romance is not one of them.
Nope, Locke is not here for that nonsense.
He's like, Boone, please focus.
Yeah.
Hurley approaches Jack, telling him that he hasn't been feeling well with all the fruit he's been eating. Jack tells him that he needs to eat the fish that Jin is catching. But Hurley is too freaked out and scared of Jin after he turned down his offering back in the pilot. Not much happens in that scene.
No, I like the fact that Jack is now wearing the key around his neck to the case. I thought that was a nice bit of like continuity from last week.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's such a smart idea to just always have that on you since it's filled with guns, but...
Right. True. And since he doesn't trust Kate.
Yeah.
In a mirror move of Sawyer last week, Jack is watching Kate pick fruit through the bushes.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Of course, because last time you were like, Jack would never do this.
But the intention is different with Jack.
No,
don't you think?
It's not different.
I choose to believe it's totally different. And Jack didn't stand there as long as Sawyer did. And
oh my God.
I know I sound insane right now, but when I was watching that scene, I was dying because I was like, Tiffany is totally going to bring this up.
I thought it was so funny. I didn't remember this happening.
Yeah.
So it was just wonderful. Serendipitous.
I suppose.
No, you should just be glad that, Kate didn't throw a rock at Jack. That should be...
I am glad.
All you need to make you happy.
Absolutely. That shows a great deal of the way she feels about Jack versus Sawyer.
Why am I making your arguments for you? As usual, Kate knows when she's being watched. She tells him that he doesn't have to hide. It's not like what she's doing is a secret. He says it's hard to tell with you sometimes. She shows him the passion fruit seeds that she's collecting and leads him to Sun's garden. Jack is impressed and says they'll need the extra food with the boar running out, but Kate suspects maybe the boar isn't running out and Locke just doesn't feel like catching it for them anymore. She thinks he may be hoarding it for himself. That seems like a little bit of a leap from Kate to me.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Jack is very surprised when she says it either, which is strange too. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like in this episode, Jack kind of makes it his mission to figure out Locke's deal. He kind of goes from person to person getting their impressions of Locke.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I think he's kind of not been paying attention to him so far.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly is like, what is this guy doing?
Right. I feel like he approaches it as, the leader that he is. He's kind of checking in with everyone, making sure everyone's okay. making sure no one's doing anything crazy. So,
always got to be doing that on this island.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this scene with the two of them. Like, after the disaster that was last week, I'll take anything at this point.
Yeah, it's actually surprising to me, like, how okay they are.
Yeah, me too. Like, I feel like there should have been a scene before this where they both apologized to each other after last week. So
there's no transition.
Yeah, they're so up and down. Sometimes it's so frustrating.
It is frustrating, and it seems like inconsistent writing.
Yeah, it does.
Like, there are episodes where they are just melodrama, and then now we're, like, back to cutesy, no problems.
Right, and I would have believed it more if there had been, like, an episode between this one and the last one, but, I mean, that literally happened last week, so...
Like, he seemed so angry with her when he walked away from her in the last episode.
And she seemed devastated, and now it's all fine, so...
Ugh, it's just so annoying.
Yeah, again, I still love it because I love them, and I will take anything at this point, but...
Right.
Now it's the point of the season where I'm feeling really jerked around by the two of them, and I'm like, what is happening?
I mean, yeah, I feel jerked around too. It's annoying. Mm-hmm. Get on the same page.
Please. For my sanity, at least.
Locke is creating some sort of a pasty concoction for later, while Boone describes how impenetrable this door seems to be. Boone asks why they're just staring at the door, not doing anything, when Locke tells Boone the story of Michelangelo's father, a wealthy man who didn't understand the divinity of his son. So he beat him, because no child of his was going to use his hands for a living. Locke describes how Michelangelo learned not to use his hands, and for months he would stare at this block of marble that would one day become the statue of David. But he was working. Boone asks if they're going to stare at the hatch for months, and Locke says they need to figure out how to open it. I just love Locke so much.
Do you? Tell me what you love about him.
I just love that he just, this story of Michelangelo and the way he relates to that and immediately focuses in on the divinity of Michelangelo. It's just so interesting.
Yeah.
He doesn't just answer people. He has these almost spiritual reasons for the things he says. Mm-hmm. It's not just Michelangelo was like a great artist. It was that he was misunderstood and his father didn't understand him, and it's just everything he says is so deep.
Yeah, it's almost too deep. It's almost like he's not a real human being. Like, anytime he says most things, I'm just like, okay, I don't even know how to respond to half the stuff that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that. Everything he says has layers to pull back.
Yeah, it's like Boone asked him a simple question of, are we going to stare at this thing for, however many months? And Locke answers him with this story about one of the greatest painters, figures in history. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. He's just so fascinating.
Yeah, he's very interesting.
I can see how he wouldn't be appealing to everybody, but I love him.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about him at the end of this episode.
Yeah, we'll have things to discuss.
Yes, we will.
In a flashback, Boone has arrived at Shannon and her boyfriend's house in Sydney to retrieve her, but Shannon dismisses him. Boone is annoyed until Shannon moves her hair back to reveal an injury on her forehead, asking him to please go, but clearly saying a lot more than that. I'm completely sucked in. I'm with Boone all the way so far.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, poor Shannon, she's obviously very scared. So, yeah, it's sad.
Very sad. And yet, it's not that surprising either. Like, this is not a story that shocks me.
Yeah.
I can kind of see this from the two of them.
Yeah, me too. And even their backgrounds. I know Boone's mentioned this before, but just the fact that he comes from money, like his mom owns a company which he runs. That's very, like, okay, that makes sense for you.
Yeah, I mean, that scene, we kind of glossed over it earlier, where he's answering the phone at the country club. That whole scene is just establishing how wealthy he is.
Right.
It looks very elite.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I don't find him so interesting. Because it's like, oh, you're just this young, rich kid. That's okay, that's your deal. Moving
Right.
on,
Yeah. And in so many cases when he encounters some sort of conflict, he just tries to use his mother or his money, which is basically his mother,
Right.
to get out of it.
Right.
Yeah, I've never seen him as someone with a lot of character strength.
Yeah, I mean, he's privileged. Like,
Yeah.
it's obvious that he hasn't had a lot really terrible happen to him in his life. He's had it pretty easy.
Yeah, for sure. Hurley approaches Jen with a spear in hand, asking him where to get the fish. Jen looks at him, laughs, and walks away. This whole storyline is great.
It is. They're so funny together.
They are. Who's the actor who plays Jen?
Daniel Day Kim?
Yes. He is so great.
He is.
He does a great job with no lines, basically.
Right. He's having to do everything without speaking English. It's really impressive when you think about it.
It is. And I mean, Jorge Garcia does an amazing job too, carrying all of the dialogue himself. Like, it couldn't have been easy for either of them, but I enjoy their whole storyline in this episode.
Me too. A great deal.
When Boone tells Locke they need to tell everyone what they found, Locke says that they wouldn't understand. Boone says he at least wants to tell Shannon, and Locke asks why he cares about her so much. Boone says that he doesn't know her like he does. Shannon is smart and special in a lot of ways. Fair enough, Locke says. Boone says he can't keep lying to her. Locke asks if Boone is sure that he has to tell her. As Boone says yes again, Locke hits him over the head and knocks Boone out.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know what it is that makes Locke take this upon himself and decide that Boone shouldn't care about his sister.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of his thing. Like, he finds people and he decides what would be best for them, and then he just goes about doing it however he sees fit.
Right, he definitely does that. And I think up till now, it's usually made sense. Like, obviously, Charlie, you should not be on drugs. Like, you will be a much happier, healthier person if we fix that.
Right.
That was wonderful. This is weird because Shannon is his family, and for him to decide that he should, like, cut them apart, that's really drastic.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know how well he knows Boone. They seem to have been, like, bonding for a while now, maybe like a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he would have some sort of understanding of their relationship. And it's not a good relationship. It's definitely unhealthy and toxic.
Right.
So, like, there is that side to it. It's not, like, a total leap, I guess.
Yeah, but they're also, like, they're siblings. A lot of their interaction, a lot of their petty stuff they say to each other is just sibling stuff that you do with your, your brother or sister. You know what I mean?
I agree, but it's not just sibling stuff with them. And maybe Locke knows that.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, do you think that he could possibly tell that Boone is in love with her?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. The amount of staring that Boone has done is a pretty clear indication, I think.
Right, and him being so upset with Saeed.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it's just so drastic. I go back and forth with him because, like you were saying, when he was mentoring Charlie, helping him get off drugs, I mean, that was great. That was good for everyone. No one had to get knocked out and tied up to a tree for that to resolve itself. I'm not sure why this had to be this way.
Yeah.
And just the way he says things like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you've thought through the ramifications of this? Like, it's like almost like he's blaming Boone for what's about to happen to him. Like,
yeah.
You brought this on yourself, which is so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost a little patronizing too. Like, that he just thinks he knows better than everybody.
Yes, that's very true.
I think in some ways, in regard to the island, Locke does seem to know better. But something like, you shouldn't be connected with your sister, that's, I mean, if you're going to draw a line, I feel like that might be my line.
That would definitely be my line. It's no. No.
It's so conflicting because at the end of this episode, it seems like it worked out in a good way.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Boone didn't get murdered, so thank God for that. Like,
No, but like Boone seems thankful at the end. I mean, I guess we'll talk about this later, but it seems like he's kind of grateful that this happened.
I don't know if he was in his right enough mind to be making any type of decisions that way. Like, but yeah.
We'll talk about it when we get there.
Sorry.
When he awakes, Boone is tied up in a very scary, very impressive rig of ropes. Locke is sitting beside him, working on his paste again. Very casual. Locke tells Boone that he's doing this because it's time for him to let go of some things. It's what's best for him, and he promises that Boone will thank him later. Locke covers the wound on Boone's head with the paste that he's been making. He tells him that camp is 4 miles west of here, and he leaves a knife in front of Boone, but just out of reach. He says that with the proper motivation, he'll be able to cut himself free and walk away. Boone shouts after him, but to no avail.
Thanks, Locke.
Peace out.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Have fun. I'm gonna go take a walk now.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
I've really enjoyed our time together.
I know. And I'm just thinking, like, I mean, he could have been eaten by, attacked by boar.
Anything.
Yeah, polar bears, the monster.
Unicorns.
Exactly. I mean, Claire just got taken by someone a few days ago, and Boone's just,
right.
Locke's just like, bye, good luck. It's ridiculous.
Locke has complete confidence in the island to take care of this.
Right, he's not at all concerned.
That is his underlying feeling. If he leaves Boone in the midst of the jungle in the island, everything will take care of itself.
It's so drastic, like you said. It's really funny. I mean, I guess no one else on this island has gone through what Locke has gone through, so I can kind of see where this, all these things with the island, this connection he feels is coming from. But if you told any of the other survivors, if Boone told any of the other survivors what had happened at the end of this episode, they'd be like, we're tying Locke to a tree. No one talk to him anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm trying to imagine if Sawyer had done this to somebody, hell would have rained down on him.
He would have been, like, excommunicated from the group.
Yeah. Locke manages to kind of get away with some stuff.
Yeah.
Back in Sydney, Boone is at the police station reporting Shannon's abusive boyfriend. As the officer tells him that he can't help, we see Sawyer in the background being taken in handcuffs. We learn that Shannon is actually Boone's stepsister, and their parents were married when Boone was 10 and Shannon was 8. Boone tries to use his mother's business empire as leverage again, but the police officer says they can't go in without real evidence. Boone approaches the boyfriend, whose name is Brian, and asks him to break up with Shannon. He offers him $20,000 to leave, but Brian says his love for Shannon is worth more like $50,000. Boone writes the check. I think the disturbing thing is to see, like, how many times he must have done this. This is clearly not his first time.
Right, which is just awful in a lot of ways. Ugh.
Yeah, it's weird. It's awful, but it's kind of pathetic.
Yeah, because you would think after the first time, he would just be like, I'm out, you're kind of, I don't want to say bringing this on yourself, but I can't keep doing this for you,
I think the whole, deciding where I come down on this all depends on his motivations. If he were just a protective brother who hated seeing his sister in a bad situation, I'd be, okay with this, I guess. I mean, it's terrible, but he's trying to do what he thinks is best.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's because he's in love with her and he's jealous and he's trying to get rid of these boyfriends for that reason, then I'm not so sure. Do we know that every time he's paid a guy off to leave, that he was being abusive?
Right. Or was she just lying to get that money every single time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they don't really answer that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he's doing this because he's in love with her. That's why he keeps coming back, keeps giving these guys all this money.
Right.
Which is really messed up.
Yeah, it is messed up. And there's so many ways that this could have started. And I think that would be interesting to know. Because maybe he did it once and Shannon didn't know he was going to do that. And then she kind of capitalized on the situation. I don't know. There's just so many ways it could have happened. So
Right.
I just wonder.
Right. And if you read it that way, that she's doing this intentionally to get money from Boone, then, that's not great for her.
No, it's not. And we get like a slight indication of why she might be doing this, but not much.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I forgot about that. Good point.
Kate is talking to Sun about how she wanted to travel to Bali and explore the island. That's what she was doing on the plane. Ha ha ha. She jokes about how she should be more careful about what she wishes for. Sun smiles, and Kate realizes that Sun understands her. She is shocked, and Sun asks her not to tell anyone. This is the start of a relationship I really like.
Do we get a lot more scenes with the two of them? I couldn't remember.
I feel like we do. Just sprinkled here and there. I just kind of like Kate and Sun's camaraderie.
No, I liked it too. It was nice to see the two of them alone together.
Yeah. I always like, I've never stopped to count or anything, but there are a lot of male characters on this show. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really nice when we have like two females who are just hanging out. Because so often the women in Lost are love interests. Mm-hmm. And especially Kate, she's always kind of in that vein. So it's nice when she's not.
Yeah, that's such a good point. A lot of the show, especially with the, the whole Jack versus Locke thing, mm-hmm. which is kind of like one of the main things they do in the show over and over. It is nice to just focus on the female characters every now and then.
People will ask me who my favorite characters in Lost are, and they're always men. Yeah. And that's always frustrated me because I don't want the men to be all my favorites, mm-hmm. but they just are. Those are the characters I'm drawn to in this particular show. And I think some of the women are not written as complex as some of the men are. And I'm always drawn to like the really complicated characters, as we've talked about endlessly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it gets better for the women as it goes along.
I think it does.
But yeah, in this first season, it's definitely more about the guys. Like, they're getting the more interesting stories, it seems like.
For sure. It's like we have Kate, who is our like adventure girl, mm-hmm. but the rest of them are not. Like, none of them. So, yeah, I like the Kate and Sun scenes a lot, especially in consideration of all that.
Yeah.
Hurley is not doing so good with the fish catching, and Jin is highly amused as he packs up his collection of fish. Hurley is suddenly stunned by a sea urchin or something. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. He says it's a sea urchin, right?
Yeah.
And Jin helps him out of the water and examines his foot. Hurley is screaming, pointing at Jin's crotch and telling him to please pee on his foot to stop the venom. Jin seems totally appalled and is able to say no in response to these demands.
It's so great. They're so great.
It's so great. That summary doesn't do that scene justice at all because it's hilarious.
It really is. And I feel like I couldn't remember this either, but Jin and Hurley, this is kind of the start of their relationship too, right? Don't we get a lot more scenes with Jin and Hurley as the show goes on? Or am I making that up?
I feel like we do. Yeah. Not like a ton, but like I wouldn't put it on Hurley and Charlie level. I feel like they have a really great relationship.
Yeah. I would put it like right underneath that though, right? Or am I making that up?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I've noticed.
I could be lying about that. I don't really remember the later seasons as well.
I don't either. Sadly. Saeed is working on the map when Locke approaches. He says Boone gave him the afternoon off, and Saeed is amused that Boone would be hunting alone. Locke points out Saeed's homemade compass and makes it canonical that he was indeed a Boy Scout once upon a time. He explains Boy Scouts to Saeed, who asks what a Weeblo would do. Locke says that he was never the popular kid and explains getting badges and learning skills. He hands Saeed his compass and says he doesn't need it anymore. I love the way Saeed says Weeblo.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know why. I just thought that was adorable. What does a Weeblo do?
Yeah. Locke is so interesting because, I mean, the last scene, now I'm feeling like you're crazy. I'm a little mad at you. But then when he talks about how he wasn't the most popular kid, It's so sad. It's like, God, would no part of your life not sad? I just feel so bad for him.
No, every part of his life was sad.
Yeah.
Until now. And that's why he's the happiest dude ever.
Oh, good point.
I do love him just handing his compass to Saeed because he doesn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, of course you don't. You know this island in and out. You don't need anyone telling you where to go or what to do. You've got it.
Right. You know when it's going to rain, you're set.
Those are just the little moments that I love from Locke.
Yeah, I do like this moment a lot too.
I feel like he's trying to make peace with Saeed a little bit too.
After he knocked him out.
Well, Saeed doesn't know that, right? So
I mean, no, but that's the other thing that Locke's done that I feel like is really not cool.
Not cool at all.
Oh man, I forgot about that until you just said that. Now I like the scene less. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, see, I was just thinking about how he was telling Boone he would need Saeed's help later. So he's just trying to like bond with him a little bit while he can.
Oh, he's so arrogant. He knocked Saeed out and then he's like, gonna need your help later. Better be nice to you.
Unfortunately, you're pretty useful.
Yeah.
So
Locke, you're so contradictory.
He is. He's very complicated.
Yeah.
Back with Boone, he hears Shannon screaming and tells her that he's tied up. She screams back that she's tied up too when the monster approaches. The sounds are ominous and highly motivating as Boone leans forward and grabs the knife. Shannon is still screaming as he cuts himself free and runs to her, tied to a tree. He cuts her free and the two run and take refuge inside a tree. We hear a strange growling noise, and then whatever it is begins to start hitting the tree over and over. And that scene is so scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Like, we haven't seen it attack like that before. Like, it's chased people and it sounded scary, but I've never seen it like beat the tree that they're hiding in.
Yeah.
Like, that just seems scarier.
That's a good point.
And I feel like they should be able to see it.
Right, it's right there. At one point, its shadow, shades the trees that they're hiding under. So
yeah, there's like holes everywhere. They should be able to tell what it is.
Yeah, they definitely should. God, this show.
Jesus, guys, just freaking look out the window.
Seriously, just look up like 2 feet. You could have saved a lot of trouble for people.
Saeed asks Jack where he thinks north is. Saeed shows him that according to the compass, north is wildly off. He says a minor magnetic disturbance can account for a couple degrees, but it's too far off. Jack asks what that means, and Saeed says, well, the compass must be defective. This is such wonderful foreshadowing about things that we can't talk about, but it's wonderful.
It is wonderful, and it's planted so early. I love it.
It is. And I love how consistently it's Saeed who brings these things up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is at least the 3rd or 4th time where he has pointed out some sort of anomaly in like the natural pattern of things. Mm-hmm. Shannon and Boone are still hiding in the tree, holding each other. They begin to venture out, and Shannon asks what Boone did to piss Locke off and make him do this to them. Boone says he did nothing, and we cut to a flashback of him retrieving Shannon. She wants him to come back later, but Boone wants them to leave now. Brian enters and Shannon doesn't move. Brian says, "You still haven't figured it out yet?" And Boone looks at Shannon and says, "You played me." Brian says Shannon's just getting what's owed to her after his mother took all of Shannon's father's money for herself. Boone is mad, realizing that Shannon must have done this to him before. He calls her a bitch, and Brian punches Boone while Shannon screams for him to stop, pulling Brian off of Boone. Yeah. I don't even know what to say about these two.
I don't either. They're a hot mess.
They really are. I
was trying to think if Shannon has any right to do this, if what Brian says is true. If Boone's mother really did steal all of her dad's money and she has nothing.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of whether that's true or not, it's a huge manipulation of Boone. So I don't think it's okay either way, but does make me more sympathetic to Shannon.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you're right. Boone didn't take Shannon's money, so.
Right. But at the same time, like, this is not Boone's money that he's paying these guys off with.
True.
He's writing the checks, but he didn't earn this money.
Right.
Ugh, it's so complicated.
I know. It's just a mess. And again, I'm not super interested in it. I'm just like, okay, you guys are a mess. I could kind of already tell that from all your other interactions.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, neither of them is a highly admirable character, so I can see why you would just be like, done.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the beach, Locke sits alone and Jack approaches, saying that it's been a while since they've talked. Jack asks how the boar hunting is going, and Locke tells him it's not good. They probably migrated away, sensing danger. Humans, after all, are the greatest threat. So this is Jack just kind of scoping Locke out for himself.
Yeah, I like this. How do you feel about Jack? You haven't said much about him in this episode.
That's because he's not annoying in this episode.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that, Tiffany.
It's not really about him.
No,
but yeah, he doesn't really do anything frustrating. I don't, inherently hate Jack.
I know, I was just kidding.
He does so many things that piss me off. I just...
No, yeah, you
just can't help it.
No, I understand. And you're right, it's not really about him. I like the leadership he's doing in this episode. He's kind of checking in with everyone.
Yeah.
Scoping things out, just...
Well, and he's not doing the thing that he sometimes does that bothers me. He's not leaping to conclusions about Locke. He's really taking his time and gathering data.
Good point.
And I really like when Jack especially does this because, especially later on, we're going to talk about how Jack he's a scientific guy. So I want him to approach things scientifically. And that's what he's doing in this episode. That's why when he has these emotional outbursts, it frustrates me because I'm like, you're supposed to be really logical.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, I wanted to ask you, do you think Locke is lying about the boar, migrating to other parts?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because obviously, I guess they haven't been hunting boar the last couple of days.
I think he's just not looking for boar, so...
I just didn't know if maybe while they were out, he had not also been looking out for boar tracks, and then not seen them, and then maybe come to this conclusion, or if he was just outright lying.
I just get the impression that Locke's attention can only be held by one thing.
Okay.
He goes to bed at night and thinks about that hatch, and he wakes up in the morning and he thinks about that hatch, and boars were last week.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
So I think he's just saying this to get everyone off his back. Kate is promising Sun that she won't tell anyone she speaks English. When she asks Sun why she won't tell Jen, she says it's because she loves him. She asks Kate if she's ever lied to a man she loved, and Kate seems to understand. Sisterhood.
Yeah, they're great.
According to Hurley, there's a rumor that Jen speaks English, which I had never noticed this line before, but I thought that was so funny.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
He tests the theory, telling Jen that his wife is really hot. There's no response, of course, and Jen brings him a sea urchin thing. I'm not sure what this thing is.
Me either.
But Hurley takes it like a shot before throwing up.
Oh, they're so great.
It's wonderful. It's kind of funny, to contrast that with Sun and Kate.
Yeah.
They're both kind of bonding in unique ways.
Right. In almost completely different ways, but...
Yeah. Jack is giving Charlie some aspirin for his heroin withdrawal, and it's confirmed that Charlie doesn't live in the caves anymore. He needed a change in scenery. Jack asks how he is, and it seems not so great. Jack asks what Charlie thinks of Locke. Charlie says he's a freak of nature, highly disturbed, but after Locke saved his life, he trusts him. Of anyone, Charlie says, he would put his absolute faith in Locke to save them all.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. I love this scene.
Yeah, me too.
I love Charlie's, passion for Locke. Which is understandable. If anyone on the island, it should be Charlie who trusts him.
Oh, absolutely. It makes total sense.
Not only has Locke helped him so much, but Charlie is a man of faith. And this is like established now, especially after last week with Rose.
Yeah.
So for him to like believe in Locke, it just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. It's great. I love how Charlie just openly acknowledges that Locke is out of his mind. But he's like, also, I completely trust him. 1000%. Like, it's like, okay.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It is a little annoying that Charlie was like telling Jack how horrible his life is and how bad he feels. And Jack just completely ignores him and says, what do you think of Locke?
Well, what was he supposed to say?
Like, don't ask how somebody is if you don't want to help them.
How can he help Charlie? He can't do anything.
By talking to him and listening to him and being like, oh, dude, it'll be okay. You know.
That's lies. I would rather just people say nothing to me if I was in that situation.
I thought we liked Jack because he's protective and takes care of people.
Right, but I mean, if Jack had responded to Charlie's, his whole story about how his life is awful, like, well, it'll be okay. Like, it probably won't, Jack. I would have been mad, so.
Bedside manner are not this guy's forte. That's all I'm saying.
Sometimes it is, though. I feel like sometimes he's good at it, but usually he's not. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes he can be really good with people, like with Rose, but a lot of the times it just kind of misses the mark.
He's not very consistent.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Back at the caves, Walt is playing with Vincent and Michael has apparently found his luggage. Hurley tells him a little bit about the sea urchin incident, and Jen appears with a gutted and cleaned fish for Hurley, because dude has earned it, and Hurley is totally psyched. Could you tell what Michael was looking at?
No. It was just like the box, right? They didn't show what was in it, did they?
Yeah, I don't think so. I was just trying to figure out what it was. I felt like I was supposed to know, and I couldn't tell.
Oh, I feel like they were just hinting at stuff for next week, so I didn't really look too closely, so I'm not sure.
That's probably what's happened, but yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, I love when Jin hands Hurley the fish, and he looks so surprised. It's so cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sweet. Jack gives Kate some guava seeds, and they seem to have gotten over whatever weirdness has happened last episode, and the two make small talk.
I love it. It's so cute.
What's a garden without guava?
Ugh, so cute. Again, so inconsistent, but I will take it. I love their chemistry. Yeah.
Boone and Shannon are trying to find their way back to camp, and Shannon is not buying Boone's story about what he and Locke have been doing, because Shannon is smart. Boone says Locke is the only one on the island who has a clue what's going on. He's smart. Shannon demands to know why Locke did this to them, and Boone tells her about the hatch. Mid-conversation, we get our first sort of visual of the monster, as something big and blurry behind them flies into the air. The two of them run, and we hear the roaring, scraping, mechanical noises. But Shannon is pulled off of the ground, screaming. Boone runs back, calling for her, and we flash back to Australia once again.
It's so scary when that monster just comes out of nowhere.
Yes. That scene is filmed really well.
Yeah.
Because you're just focused on the two of them, and then just in the background, boom.
Right. Oh, it's so shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said we get like our first visual shot of the monster. Is that true? I didn't really look too closely.
We see like a big blur of something, but I don't know if we're supposed to think we see it or not.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't seen anything from it so far. Just shadows.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know. It's really ambiguous.
Yeah, but the noises it makes are so scary. I wonder how long
They're so weird.
Took them to, we should look that up, to like craft those noises, or how they made the decision that it was, going to have that mechanical clicking sound. It's so interesting.
It really is. There are so many conflicting sounds. It sort of sounds like an animal, but it sort of sounds like a machine. Mm-hmm. It's just totally weird.
Right.
And the visual of Shannon, like, being pulled off the ground, like, and her feet, like, still running. Oh, that's so scary.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very intense scene. Back in Australia, Shannon is at Boone's hotel room. She says, Brian took the money and now he's gone. Boone says the player got played and points out that Shannon is drunk. Shannon says she knew Boone would bring the money because he's in love with her. She says he's always been in love with her and she has always known it. He tells her she's a self-centered bitch and she's sick. She begins to kiss his ear and then they begin to really kiss. And Boone does not protest, like, at all. They fall to the bed and in the next scene, Boone has no shirt on. Shannon tells him that when they get back to LA, they should just go back to what it was before. He's not happy, but she tells him to get dressed.
Yeah.
And this is when things get super weird.
Yeah.
I do remember watching this the first time and being like, whoa.
Yeah. I do too. I remember this episode being so scandalous, you know?
Yeah.
It was just like, whoa, what is happening here?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that happens.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, watching it this time, it didn't seem as big of a deal. I think mostly because after watching Game of Thrones for 7 seasons, incest is like not a big deal anymore.
That's what I was going to say too.
Really? Yeah. It's just like, whatever. They're not even technically related, so it's fine, which is so sad.
Yeah. It is weird because, yeah, they're not technically related. So, yeah, it doesn't seem as horrible, but it's just, it breaks all cultural norms, and that's why I guess it's so shocking.
Yeah, and I guess the fact, too, that their parents got married when they were, like, 8 and 10, I think they said, which is fairly young, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like this just happened, like, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they grew up together in a way.
Yeah. Nothing about this is okay.
No, it's pretty terrible. On the island, Boone's still looking for Shannon when he finds blood in the river. He follows it to Shannon's mutilated body. He holds her and he cries. And this is sad.
It is, yeah, it's sad.
I remember this shocking me too. Like, one shock after the other.
Really?
Yeah. Because I just couldn't believe that they would, like, kill a significant character, like, so quickly. And
yeah. I remember, I mean, I definitely thought she was dead, but I wasn't really, I didn't really care that much. I was just like, damn, that was a violent end.
I was probably already digging Shannon and Saeed, so I was like, I wanted to see how that would play out.
Right.
Boone returns to camp and finds Locke. He pulls his knife, saying, "You killed her, it's your fault." He tells Locke what happened, but Locke asks why there's no blood on Boone. Boone asks what just happened to him, and Locke says he doesn't know, as Shannon walks by with Saeed. Boone says she was dead, and Locke asks if that's what it made him see. Boone realizes that Locke drugged him with his mystery paste. Locke says he gave Boone an experience that was vital for his survival on the island. Locke asks how Boone felt when Shannon died. He says he felt relieved, and Locke nods. It's time to let go. Follow me. Whew.
It's so ridiculous.
It is, but what is more ridiculous? That Locke did this, or that Boone found it a relief for Shannon to be dead?
Yeah, I mean,
because both are crazy.
They are crazy. And I kind of, when I watched this last scene, I'm almost thinking in my head, Boone must still be feeling the effects of whatever drug that Locke put on his head, because there's no way in the rational light of day he would be feeling this way. He would follow Locke into the jungle in the middle of the night to, I guess, go back to their hatch. Like, no, none of that it's all crazy.
Locke is compelling. I mean, he sucks people in, and Boone is a guy who is easily sucked in.
Right, but Boone, at this point, he feels like he has absolute trust in Locke. I feel like I would have no trust in Locke after this. Even if I did feel some kind of relief after that crazy drug dream that I just had. I would be like, thanks for the emotional, I guess, whatever you did for me, but please stay away from me from now on because you're absolutely crazy.
I think that all through this episode, I have this feeling of, oh my God, Locke, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I have to remember at the end of the episode that he didn't do, like, at least half of the things we thought he did. Boone was imagining it. So, like, he didn't kidnap Shannon and tie her to a tree. Like, that never happened. He, like, I feel like emotionally all through the episode, we feel like he did. And then at the end, we have to kind of, like, pull back and realize he didn't actually do that.
I mean, fair point, but he did knock Boone out and tie him up and drug him, so that's kind of enough for me. Like,
sure, but I think I can understand more why Boone would forgive him when he realizes that he didn't do anything to Shannon. It was all just to him, and now he, for some reason, has had this light bulb moment that he has this toxic relationship with Shannon.
Yeah. Locke, there are better ways to go about this. That's all I'm saying.
I wonder what that paste was.
That's a good question.
He just found some, like, mystery mushrooms or something?
Yeah, he probably invented something on the spot. I was like, this'll do.
Probably. It's powerful. It's a huge relief to see Shannon walking around normal. Mm-hmm. If you're one to care about Shannon, which I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it so weird. I don't think, no matter how complicated my relationship with my brother could be, I just can't imagine being relieved to find him dead. It just makes me think so ill of Boone.
Well, yeah, but you're not in love with your brother, so it's a little different.
I guess. But that's still bad. He's like, supposedly loves her and he's just relieved. I don't know. It's just so weird.
It is bad. I feel like the way we're shown that she's treated him, like through manipulation. I mean, I feel like she knows that Boone is in love with her. And she also, I feel like I get from her that she will never be in love with Boone. And she uses him for money and sex and whatever else she needs. So I can kind of see why Boone would have felt some kind of relief. I mean, it is awful, but... Yeah.
No, I can see that too. I guess it's the specificity of... What was your first feeling? Relief.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you weren't like kind of upset first and then you were relieved?
It's just those drugs talking, okay? It's the only explanation for this scene.
Yeah. And Locke just seems totally amazed that Boone had this experience and that he thought he saw Shannon, and his eyes are just so wide. He's so excited to like hear what happened. It's just... He's just such a funny guy.
I know. Like, it's weirdly fascinating.
Yeah. I think he's just so fascinated by whatever this island is capable of. And he just loves hearing what it has done.
Yeah, because he says, I gave you an experience that I believed was vital to your survival on this island.
Right.
I kept imagining if, like, somehow Jack had found out about this and he went to Locke and he was like, why did you do this again? And Locke had said that. Jack would, or anyone would have been like, okay, what are you talking about?
Yeah, they'd be so angry. But Boone isn't. And that's like what makes it 10% okay.
Yeah.
It's sort of similar to his experience with Charlie, where he seemed to know what Charlie needed and gave it to him.
Yeah, except he didn't knock Charlie out.
No, but in some twisted way, this is what Boone needed.
No, Locke, there are better ways to go about this. You could have found a different way that I feel like would have had a similar results. This is very drastic. I don't know. When I get to the end of this episode, I don't trust Locke at all. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, okay, I like you. You have good moments, but you also have moments where you're absolutely insane, and I don't quite understand it.
Do you feel like his intentions are good?
It's so hard for me to even understand his intentions, because he's all about the island and, you know, exploring the relationship with the island. So, I don't know.
I feel like his intentions are good. Like, he thinks he's helping Boone, helping prepare him, you know, for his survival on the island. So...
Right. In his mind, they're good.
Yeah. But yeah, the way he goes about it is just so absolutely crazy.
Right. It's like like you said earlier, like he's always only focused on one thing. You would think any other person, if they saw Boone and they said to themselves, oh, I'm going to try. He obviously needs help with his twisted relationship with his sister. I'm going to try and do something that helps him resolve that. You know, any other person would be like, okay, well, leaving Boone alone in the jungle tied up, he could die in 1,000 different ways. I mean, also, what if Boone had come back in the middle of the night and Locke had been sleeping and he had just killed Locke without even saying anything? Like, that could have been a possibility. Locke didn't really know what was going to happen to Boone when he drugged him.
Locke would never worry about that because the island would protect him.
Right, which is, it's hard to relate to. Yeah. He's so focused on what he thinks is right and how he thinks this is going to help Boone. He doesn't think about all those other consequences, which is just not great.
Well, and I think there's another even less generous way to look at this, where he's not trying to help Boone. He's just trying to help himself and keep Boone from talking to Shannon and telling the secret about the hatch.
That's a good point.
I feel like it's kind of a mixture of both. I think he does think he's helping Boone, but, you know, he's also conveniently keeping his hatch secret and keeping his little helper dude who's going to help him. So this works out pretty nicely for him.
Yeah, it does. It's just messed up.
All right, I know you did, but what did you come to thematically?
Oh, God. Okay, so what I wrote down, I'm not sure this really makes any sense, but I mean, this is so dumb, but the show seems to be saying that like the more you obsess over something, the worse it is.
Oh, that's very similar to what I thought of.
Okay,
really.
Great.
Sort of. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I mean, Boone obviously has this obsession with Shannon that's really, it's really unhealthy. And, you know, it's very significant when at the end of the episode, he's finally able to let go of this. So yeah, I feel like the show is just saying, you know, the more you obsess over something, the worse it gets. But I couldn't really relate that to anything that was happening on the island.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the other storylines that are happening on the island are really fairly superficial. I mean, there's some character development and like we're forging some new relationships, which is nice, but it's not a big thing. And it's not like there's one other focus. I mean, I think the only other person you can focus on here is Locke. So, I mean, there's always the argument that Locke is obsessed with the island to an unhealthy point.
Oh, that's such a good... Yes, he is.
That certainly leads him to make some questionable decisions.
Yes, some very poor decisions, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, I mean, mine is very similar because I said, how do you know when it's time to let go and move on?
Okay.
And I think it's what you were saying, like when it becomes this unhealthy obsession. And in this episode and last episode, we saw that Boone's focus on Shannon and his absolute paranoia with her and Saeed is just, it's unhealthy for him and it's just toxic. So obviously Locke sees that this is unhealthy and that he needs to move on and let go. And he says to Boone a few times throughout the episode, like, it's time to let go. So I think this is just the story of Boone letting go.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's only when he like does that he realizes what a burden Shannon was to him. And she doesn't even mean to be a burden to him, I don't think. She just is she consumes his thoughts in like a burdensome way.
Yeah, I mean, she's pretty manipulating, but yeah, I think moving on, that's definitely a good theme for this episode. But yeah, I struggled to come up with even that. It was hard for this episode.
I think it's hard because we've been able to pull from the minor storylines as well, and there wasn't really much you could do with the minor storylines in this one.
Right, exactly.
Which I feel like we've said the last couple episodes.
Yeah, we've had like a streak of episodes that have been hard to come up with themes for.
Yeah. I wonder if just the first few episodes were just so strong and so like well crafted that it was really easy with those ones, and now it's just, you know, we're kind of in the heart of the season. And
yeah, I also feel like it's hard not to repeat themes because as we start getting second episodes with characters like Jack and Kate, And we're, it's hard not to repeat the first themes of the first time we saw their stories,
Right, because characters kind of go through similar learning experiences. Mm-hmm. So, I looked up some names.
Yay!
I feel like this needs a special name. The name segment. In the name corner with Tiffany. And so Shannon's names, her first and last names, did not really amount to much at all.
Okay.
Shannon means wise river.
Okay.
I guess we kind of talked about her being smart.
Yeah, sure.
And Rutherford means cattle ford. So we're just gonna kind of like brush Shannon's off.
Cattle ford?
Cattle ford.
Okay.
I can't tell you what that means.
Interesting. All right.
But Boone's, I feel like it's kind of interesting because Boone, I think, is a direct reference to Daniel Boone, who is like the notorious frontiersman, the explorer, the outdoorsman, So obviously that's who Boone's trying to be lately.
Yeah, he has some of those qualities for sure.
Mm-hmm. And his last name, Carlisle, means from the protected tower, which I thought was really interesting in consideration of his mother, who clearly her protection has served him well his entire life.
Right.
So he's got like her name, her business, and her money.
Ooh, the protected tower. I like that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this stuff was not intentional and I'm just like reading into it, but I like that a lot for him, especially like that's his mother's last name. So to connect them that way would be really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Can't underestimate these lost writers.
Yeah, they put hidden details in everything, so you never know.
You never know.
Exactly.
But yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? I feel like overall we kind of agreed with this episode, like how we felt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the only other thing I wanted to mention was the title for this episode. I can never remember the name in this episode. And when I sat down to watch it this time, knowing what it was about, I was like, oh, Hearts and Minds. It's just kind of dumb and vague. Like you could title every episode Lost Hearts and Minds. Like,
right.
It's involved. But when I was looking up trivia about this episode, they were saying that it actually refers to a strategy that the military used to use to kind of win approval during the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. Kind of going along the lines of, don't have to go in and conquer things by brute force. If you just win the hearts and minds of people, that would be enough in some cases.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Who do you feel like that applies to?
Locke, maybe?
Yeah. Like he's trying to win Boone's approval, I guess? Not approval.
Right. But yeah, get him on his side. And he talks about getting Saeed on his side.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
When I looked at the title, I always, like, when I see hearts and minds, I always think, like, the heart wanting something that the mind knows it shouldn't have. Like, to put those two together, heart and mind, and obviously, like, Boone and Shannon should not be a couple. That's totally weird. Boone, I guess, knows at least that, but he can't help it.
Right. Okay. I like that a little bit more.
No, I mean, I like both of those. I think it's interesting, and like we should talk about the titles. They're important.
I know. I forget to do that sometimes, but yeah, they are important.
That's all we can talk about with Boone and Shannon.
Yeah.
It's just another episode that leaves you shaking your head.
Yeah, that's so true.
What just happened here?
That's what I was absolutely doing at the end of this episode. I was like,
I have a hangover after this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is it for the show today, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to a few people because today I checked our iTunes review page. And Randy, guess how many reviews we have?
How many?
We have 6. What? Yay!
Amazing.
It's very exciting. There were new reviews that I didn't know were there. So thank you so much to Calla Lily, Sir Bretley, and Paul. You guys taking a moment out of your day to leave us a review. It It means a lot, and we really, really appreciate it.
We do. Shout out to you guys for being awesome.
You rock. So on that note, if you haven't had time to leave us a review yet, today's the day. Head on over to iTunes and rate, review, subscribe to Freckles and Blondie there. And if you're feeling especially generous, you can visit our Patreon page and donate $1 a month or whatever you can afford to help us with the production of this podcast. Patrons get access to exclusive content, and if you donate, you'll be helping us to meet our first stretch goal. Once we meet our first goal, we're going to create a bonus episode, TBD. We don't know what it's going to be about yet, but it's going to be awesome, and you guys can help us decide what it should be about.
Yeah, so head on over there and check it out.
If you need a link to that, it's at our website, thelostpodcast.com. Make sure you join us next week for episode 14 of Lost Special, in which we finally get a look into Michael and Walt's relationship. So that should be pretty fun.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting.
Hopefully we don't just hate on Michael the entire time, but
yeah,
likely.
We'll see. I don't remember that one too well, so we'll see what happens.
I remember some fun stuff with Walt, but I can't really remember what's going on with Michael.
Me either.
Thanks again for listening, guys. I am Tiffany.
And I'm Randy.
And this has been Freckles and Blondie.